Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Let's start chapter number 7 of D1. And this chapter is number sequence. So the first question is, what is a number sequence? Simply, a number sequence is a list of numbers, and these numbers are linked by a rule. So this list has number of elements, and each element in this list is known as a term. And for moving from one term to another term, we need to work out a rule. Once we know that rule, we can figure out any term within a sequence. So this number sequence in a way is a very good mathematical approach in developing thinking ability. So let's take some couple of basic examples and figure out the rules, how the rules are figured out and how the rules are applied to get the next term. So let's start. Example. And in these examples, we'll find out next two terms. So the first example is 4, 7, 10 and 13. So it's a list of numbers, and as I have said that in this list of numbers, the numbers are linked through some rule. So we have to figure out that rule or a pattern so we can find out the next two terms. So let's observe this sequence. This is term number 1, term number 2, term number 3, term number 4. Now, when we are moving from term 1 to term 2, sorry. So when we are moving from term 1 to term 2, what is happening? The number is increasing from 4 to 7. So, while moving from 4 to 7, what is the increase? It's increased by 3. So, what we are supposed to do? 4 plus 3, we get 7. So, it means that if we add 3 to the first term, we get our second term. So, let's do the same thing on the second term to get the third term. So, if we add 3 to 7, do we get 10? Yes, we do get 10. 7 plus 3 is 10. Okay, let's keep on doing this thing. We add 3 to 10, and what we get? 13. Fine. So, each time we add 3 to the previous term, we get the next term. So this is our rule. This is the rule we were looking for, that we have to add 3 to the previous term to get the next term. So if we add 3 to the fourth term, what we will get? Plus 3. We get here 16. This is our fifth term. And if we add plus 3 to the fifth term, what we get? 19. So we have our next two terms, 16 and 19. This is the fifth term and the sixth term. And the rule is adding 3. Adding 3 to the previous term to get the next term. So it was simple. So let's take another example. 4, 8, 16, 32. Okay, rules are not always not going to be adding something. The rule might be of subtracting something, multiplying something, squaring something. So in this second example, if we observe all our numbers, all our integers, the increasing pattern is there, but from moving from term 1 to term 2, what relationship we are having? Is it going to be an addition pattern, or it's going to be some other? So let's check it out. If we look at 4 and 8, so 4 into something can be 8, and then from 8 to 16 we see that 8 into something can be 16, and then from 16 to 32, 16 into something can be 32. So what is that something that if we are multiplying that with the previous term, we get the next term? So in this case, if we multiply 4 with 2, 4 times 2 is 8. Simple. And then if we apply the same rule to the second term, 8 times 2 is 16. Applying same rule to the third term, 16 times 2 is 32. Fine. We have our rule. Multiplying previous term with 2, we get the next term. So let's find out the fifth term. 32 times 2 is 64. And then from fifth term to sixth term, multiply by 2. 64 times 2 is 128. So we have our next two terms, and the rule is multiplying by 2 previous term, and we get the next term. So let's take one more example before we do practice now questions. Okay, the example is 70, 60, 50, 40. Okay, again numbers, positive numbers, all integers, and we can clearly see that there's in this sequence we have a decreasing trend. We are moving from 70 to 60, 60 to 50, 50 to 40. So there is a decreasing trend. Now, if we observe the first two terms, while moving from term 1 to term 2, what are we subtracting from the first term to get the second term? If we subtract 10 from 70, what do we get? 60. So that means that we are decreasing the first term by 10 to get the second term. So we'll apply the same thing on the second term. We'll decrease the second term by 10. We get third term. Okay. We'll decrease the third term by same. We get the fourth term. Okay. It means that it's our rule that we have to decrease the previous term by 10 to get the next term. So let's subtract 10 from the fourth term, we get the fifth term. Subtract again from the fifth term 10, we get our sixth term. So we have our next two terms, and the rule is subtracting 10 from the previous term to get the next term. So far, so it's simple. So let's do a practice now one on the page 160. Question 1, and I'm taking the B part. It is minus 20, minus 26, minus 32, minus 38, and minus 44. Okay, and what we have to do, state the rule and find next term. Okay, if we it's a list of a number, and we can observe that it's a list of negative integers, and these negative integers have an increasing trend from -20 to -44. Okay, now let's take first two terms. While moving from term 1 to term 2, what is happening? Term 1 is -20 and term 2 is -26. Term 1 is a negative number, so we have to add something negative to it to make it -26. So what could be that? If we add -6 to -20, what we are going to get? -26. That is 20 minus 6 is -26. Let's apply the same thing to term number 2. -6, 26, -26 minus 6, we're going to get -32. Okay. Now, from -32 minus 6, we get -38. From -38 to -44, -38 minus 6, -44. So we have our rule. If we are adding -6 to the previous term, we get our next term. So the rule is add -6 to previous term to get next term. Okay. So if -6 is we are going to add to get the next term, so let's do that. -44 minus 6. We are adding -6 to -44. Both are negative. The result will be negative, and we get here -50. -44 minus 6, we get -50. So we have our next term, we have the rule, and this is what we were asked to do. So let's take question number 2 be part of the same practice now and solve that part 2. Question 2 and B part. 26, 25, 21, 20, 16. So we have a list of numbers, we have a number sequence, and all are integers, positive integers, and we can see there is a decreasing trend from 26 to 16. So let's see what is happening from term 1 to term 2. If we move from term 1 to term 2, the term 1 is decreased by 1, so -1, and we get 25. Now coming to term 2, we see that it is decreased by 4, 25 minus 4, we get 21. Now from term 2 to term 3, again it is decreased by -1, and we get 20. 21 minus 1 is 20. From term 4 to term 5, we see it is decreased by 4. 20 minus 4 is 16. Okay, so to figure out the rule, we see that -1 is added to alternate numbers, or another way we can say that -4 is added to alternate numbers. Now how to say that this rule is going to work? So term 1 we subtracted 1. From term 3 we subtracted 1. So this is term 1, this is term 3. Okay? So it means that they are odd terms. From term 2 we subtracted 4. From term number 4 we subtracted 4. So from even terms we are subtracting 4. So the rule is subtract 1 from the odd term to get the next term, and subtract 4 from the even previous term to get the next term. Okay? The rule, subtract 1 from the odd terms to get next term, and subtract 4 from the even terms to get next term. So again, this is term 1, 1 is odd. This is term 2, term is even. Term 3, odd term. That is number of the term. This is number of the term is 1, number of the term is 2, number of the term is 3, number of the term is 4, number of the term is 5. So term number 1, it is an even number. So we are subtracting my 1. Term number 2, it's an even number term. So we are subtracting minus 4. We are not checking the actual numbers. I am talking about the serial number of the term. Term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4, term 5. If the term number is term sequence of the order of the term is odd, we will subtract 1. If the order of the sequence is even, we will subtract 4. Okay? So here, what are we going to do? Because it's going to be the order of the number in the sequence will be 6. So we are going to do is we are going to subtract minus 1. Okay, this is fifth term. We are subtracting 1, so we get here 15. It's our sixth term. Now the sixth term has order number 6, so which is even. We are going to subtract 4 and we get here 11. Okay, so we are alternating 1 and 4. We are alternating while subtracting 1 and 4. Okay, first time we are subtracting 1, second time 4, then alternating it. And another way we can say, if we keep on looking at the order of the terms in the sequence, odd terms, subtract 1. Even number terms, subtract 4. Okay? So this way, it's just like a wave. 1, 4, 1, 4. And you'll get your the next number and the rule. Okay, I hope that you got some idea about how to figure out the rules in these basic number sequences, and you have understood it. Do give me feedback. Thank you very much.